Hey everybody, Sean here at Laurel Ranch. Hope that you are having a fantastic, amazing day. Just wanted to check in with you guys. I had done a video about insulating some water lines, since we've got a lot of water lines all over the place for auto waterers. And we actually, just here over Christmas, we had some hard freezes. It was actually, I think we had almost 2 days where it was below freezing, which for us in South Texas is pretty rare that it ever goes that long. And we actually had one day where some wind chills were down in the single digits, which I know is nothing for those that are up north, but for us, that's a really big deal. I'm from Kansas, and they had wind chills in the negative 30s, so we don't have anything like that. But it was really cold, and obviously exposed water lines could be a big deal on those. So just wanted to show you some of the things that we had insulated and how they fared during that freezing weather. Hi, Oliver. Hi, kitty kitty. Hi there. Oh, look, there's Sushi too. Hi, Sushi. You gonna come say hi now? Oh, we spun the camera because we pushed it down like that. All right, so first thing was most of our water spigots that come out of ground like this. So you guys saw I did a video on insulating these with the foam insulation and then that tape around them. Any water lines like this actually did really well. They didn't freeze. This one right here, since there's nothing over that spigot, if there was any water on the end of it, it did freeze, but we just left that one dripping and it kept it from freezing up and everything did fine. We had some others where we had a cover that we put over that spigot and we left them shut. They came out of the ground just like this. They were actually outside, not even inside the barn, and they did great. They didn't freeze. Everything was good. So this one we just left dripping. It was good. So our auto waterers, the first one is this one, and we have 3 of these. So none of these pipes coming out of the ground froze, and you could see even the hose I had insulated as well, and it did not freeze. So when we come in here, what I did is on these tanks, I had some leftover insulation and some waterproof stuff, and I just wrapped it around that tank. You can see the water line is all insulated, and nothing froze here. The only thing that happened was because the top didn't have anything on it, it got a light skim of ice, and it caused that float to not work, and that float froze up because underneath this there's a float and there's nothing insulating that. So what we did is, you can see this nail hanging here, is hung a heat lamp above there to just have some heat coming down, and with that heat lamp coming down, the insulation around there and then the insulated pipes, this actually worked good and did not freeze up, other than before we put that heat lamp on there to keep the ice from forming on the top. So that ended up okay. Over here on the rabbits, you can see we have these lines all wrapped, and that all worked good all the way down, you know, where they're being fed from underneath. Now we did have down there a connection issue that for some reason sprung loose, probably because I didn't have it threaded correctly, and with the hot and the cold, then it sprung loose, and you can see the ground is still wet from that. A lot of water came out of there, but it was brass parts, and they just screwed back together. So I think it was just, I didn't quite have it correctly the first time. But the only thing that didn't work on these is the nipples. So here on the end, you can see these. I don't know if I can get the camera in there the right way, but on those nipples on the end, there's always a little bit of water there, right here. And so that froze. And so that made these unusable. Just because it was frozen on the end, no water could come out. So we ended up having to give water to the rabbits manually. So not a big deal, but I think with any of the nipples, same thing with the chickens, with their nipples on their waterer, they froze as well, just right at the nipple. The bucket didn't freeze, the water lines didn't freeze, anything like that. It was just the nipple on the end. So I think the insulation part was doing a really good job. Also, I want to walk out here to the outside. So this in the barn, nothing's under pressure. It's all gravity fed, essentially. And running out to one of our pens, we have a hose coming right off the tank. So where this is insulated, so part of the hose is insulated, but then insulated the PVC coming out there. None of that froze. So that's all wrapped, insulated, actually double insulated. None of that froze. Now the hose did freeze, but we had this hooked up to a big water tank, and since the hose is pliable, you know, it didn't break. And so the tank and the float froze and the hose froze, but as soon as it thawed out, it started working again. And we didn't lose any water, and we didn't lose our source because this insulation worked really well. The only major thing we had out here is on this part right here is called a first flush diverter. And what it is so the first water that comes off the roof flows down into this tube, and you see there's a cap on there. So this whole tube fills up with water first, and that's all the junk goes into there. And then water starts flowing into the tank. And so on the end here, you can see we have a cap, so I could take the cap off and clean out any gunk, but I also have a hole with a screw through there. And that just allows the water to slowly discharge out of there. So we want the water to build up when it's raining, but when it stops raining, we want the water to slowly discharge. And this actually worked really good. We had emptied it before, there's no water in there, everything like that. What I didn't do is I didn't check the first flow diverter on the other tank before we had the freeze. And here's what it looks like now. It is completely shattered. And I realized that on this one, you can see there's no screw. I never put the hole and the screw in here for the water to drain out. So this one was completely full from the previous rain of water. And when it froze, it just shattered this pipe. And so now I've got to replace that, because right now, none of the water, all the water off the roof is just going to come out and go to nowhere. So it looks like, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. Actually, the crack goes all the way up. So I'm going to have to figure out what I do there to be able to replace that. So all in all, the insulation worked pretty well on all the exposed PVC, even down by the house where we had water lines under pressure, where they were wrapped really well the way that I showed in the video. They didn't freeze, even with pressure on the lines. We did have one pipe break that was a pressured pipe that I thought I had insulated for the duck water, and it broke and was spraying everywhere. And when I went to fix it, I realized there was a section about that long that had no foam insulation. It just had that tape wrapped around it. And I don't know why I did that. I just messed up. I missed something, I guess. And that's exactly where it froze, right there. But everything else, we did have a hose that for the dog water that froze and actually broke off the metal where the hose connects to the float. The hose itself broke. And so I think that in the future, I'm not going to keep water pressure in a hose. I was thinking the rubber hose had some pliability. If it froze, it's okay. I didn't think about the metal piece on the end and having some strain against it that it might break. But other than that, the other waterers seemed to do good. Everything that was insulated properly didn't freeze, even if it was out exposed in the 9-degree wind chill. It was like, hey, Smokey. There's Smokey saying hi. But it was like 30, 40 mile an hour winds. And that's, you know, out there. But so I was fairly happy. Unfortunately, we were gone and we had somebody watching the farm. So anything that breaks while we're gone makes it less desirable because it's a lot more work for the people that are taking care of it. And I don't expect them to take the time to fix it and everything. So, but anyways, just want to give everybody an update because since that last video when I did insulate a lot of pipes, we had a freeze and I wasn't expecting that. We usually don't have a freeze like that until February, and it was in December over the Christmas time frame. So I want to give an update on how that worked. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you guys got something out of that. Love to hear any thoughts. Love to get some ideas or thoughts from you guys on the water troughs and keeping them from freezing up for the big animals. I had looked into some water heaters, electric water heaters, but a lot of them consume a lot of power. And since we're remote, we don't have a ton of power. And they're not big water troughs. They're only those 4-gallon automated ones. Also, our feed stores were not selling the water heaters because they said they'd had too many people with animals that got electrocuted because lines shorted out or an animal chewed through something or whatever it is. So looking for something on a bigger water trough to keep the water moving and circulated. It seemed to work fine the way everything was insulating the tank and then having the heat lamp shine down on it. I'm just not a big fan of heat lamps because if they get knocked off or something like that can start a fire. So anyways, curious if anybody has some other ideas, open to everything. We're just trying to, learn as we go. And so look forward to hearing from you guys on what comments you have. Thanks again for tuning in. Please make sure you like these videos if you find value in them. Love to have you subscribe to our channel. We've got lots of stuff going on. We're into 2023. We're going to be dividing up some pastures this year, doing some electric fencing, putting up some other fencing so we can use our 11 acres, clearing a lot of cedar, getting ready for some cabins and different things like that, as well as continuing to finish out the barn, putting in electrical and stuff like that. So trying to do it all on a very, very, very small budget and very, very, very small amount of time. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and joining us along that journey. We'll talk to you later.